Hello, students. Today we are going to discuss about deposition environments, how we can recognize depositional environments using different tools. And this is also your lab number 2. And hopefully, after practicing the tasks given in this lab, you will be able to interpret depositional environment of a specific rock or the sample you will collect from field. Okay, deposition environments actually recognized by using a combination of different characteristics or properties like sedimentary facies and their associations, sedimentary structures, and fossils. And if you have knowledge of these characteristics, then you can easily interpret a deposition environment of a particular lithology or rock that you have in your hand or you have collected from field. Okay, what are sedimentary facies? Sedimentary facies is actually a distinct rock that forms under certain conditions of sedimentation, and those conditions actually reflect a particular environment. And an example for that is if you have a cross-bedded medium sandstone. And what does it mean? Actually, it means a rock consisting of mainly sand grains of medium size. And cross-bedding is the primary sedimentary structure in that. So you also have to well aware about these terminologies like crossbed and medium sandstone. These are not tough to learn. Similarly, one other important feature that you need to learn is actually transgression and regression. In simple way, you can define transgression is actually the sea level rise and regression is actually the sea level drop. For further details, you have to look into cause of sea level rise and drop. You can Google it. A lot of literature, a lot of images, examples are available. And let's search some good literature on transgression and regression and try to understand these phenomena and how under transgression, regression, lithology vary you can observe in literature. I have also provided a good, you can say, material for reading, and the link is provided here. These are the slides actually developed for depositional environment recognition. So let's go through these slides. Hopefully, you will learn a lot of things from it, particularly the transgression and regression phenomena. So if you need further explanation, you can go through these slides and can ask questions from those slides. Okay, before going further, I want to show you some simulation work that was actually done by a master student. Let's observe this figure, and with the passage of time, we can say passing million of years, how deposition of clastics vary. And let's focus at the bottom of this figure, and I'm going to start this simulation. Okay, as you can observe at the bottom, different layers are going to be developed with the passage of time, and also you observe the changes happen on the surface as well. Actually, these are the phenomena that involved in developing different lithology in different depositional environment. So, you also observe the variation in sea level as well. Actually, those variation in sea levels are characterized as transgression and regression. I will play again to reverse it. Let's observe again. Okay. Okay, these slides actually give you some idea about classic rocks deposition, how different classic, particularly sand, shale, and mudstone deposited under marine and transition environments or shallow marine environments. Okay, now let's come back to again our lab number two. And one more thing regarding these slides, you can also get some good knowledge of facies analysis as well, how these analyses are performed, how data acquired from the field, how those data actually we interpret for facies analysis. And actually, to recognize the deposition environment, we have to visit the field and we have to go where these rocks actually are exposed on the surface. So, and we observe different features from the outcrop and then also noted down those features to interpret the deposition environment. So the basic equipments that actually we need for field visit, those are our hand lens. Mostly the magnification for that is around 10x. And you also need a compass just to assess the sedimentary structures, their direction, their depth, angles, and some other information. Similarly, you also need a geological hammer. This is also very important uh, equipment. You can say you can assess the hardness of those rocks, actually, which are exposed on the surface. And also, you can observe some other features as well with the help of this geological hammer. Similarly, some other accessories that can also be helpful for identification of rocks in the field. Those are dilute SCL, and you also need one camera, one GPS to note down the coordinates, and so, one notebook and a plastic bag for collecting the samples, and a scale to assess the size of structures and sometimes the thickness of bed. So these are important equipment for field sampling. So for recognizing the deposition environment of a particular rock, you have to do field sampling. Without that, you can't assess the real environment of that particular rock. So when you have this data after field visit, then I think you can start to build simple models, or you can say geological models, and then you can reach um, to the real environment of that rock in which it was deposited in the past. Similarly, you also have to note down the field observation, like you have to describe the lithology, what you observed in the field based on very famous classification like Dunham limestone classification and Pettyjohn sandstone classification. You should have this literature with you so that in the field you can classify or identify rock as it limestone, as it sandstone, and in which category it falls. Similarly, you have to observe bed thicknesses. Sorry, it's bed thickness, not bed. And sedimentary structures, fossils, and also if you can interpret the color of the rock and can assess the weathering, how much it is weathered. And it is recommended that the sample should be from the fresh surface, not from weathered surface. So you have to remove the few feet of the upper surface so that you can get fresh surface of the particular rock for sampling. Similarly, one important thing is always use standard sedimentary symbols and pattern for data recording. When you are in the field, let's also keep those symbols and pattern with you. And whatever you observe in the field, try to plot on the spot so that later on you can easily interpret those patterns and symbols. Okay, here is one field example that I have added in this lab for your help to understand deposition environment. Here are different rocks have been identified just like this stream deposited conglomerate, and then in between here is a fine grained horizontally bedded sandstone, and here is very thin layer compared to these of paleosoil. This is actually the soil, particular soil that will deposit in this particular era of time. And then again at the bottom we can observe stream deposited conglomerate. And you can say in million of years this particular sequence was deposited, and now in present day you are going to observe, and each layer actually representing a particular time period. It may be million of years or few hundred million of years that have to be identify based on the geology of the area or literature, or if you have some geological history of this area, you can identify the age of this particular area. And also there are some tests available. I'm not going to go in detail of those things because I suppose that you have read a lot about geological ages and their identification in your mineralogy and petrology subject. And if you are clear about those, it's good. If you are weak, I will again recommend let's go through again to those subjects, particularly mineralogy and petrology, and refresh yourself how we can specify the age of a particular layer or rock. Okay, similarly, in part B of this image, here are other some other lithology, and in another area same with formations or lithology like paleosoil layer is somewhere here, and here is the stream deposited conglomerates, and again one paleosoil layer, and then again stream deposited conglomerates and basalt. And this is actually the direct observation in the field, and you can, if you have some basic knowledge of petrology and mineralogy, you can at least identify different sequence of rock based on their lithologies. Okay, here is you can say latest trend in the industry as well as in research regarding deposition environments. Before recognizing deposition environments, actually people like to develop the 3D facies model. As you can see in the figure, these actually column are representing the borehole that was actually drilled in this particular area, and based on those boreholes and these 1D geological model, or you can say 1D facies model, this 3D facies model was developed. and some complex statistical calculations actually involved behind this model. And if you are interested, you can look into machine learning and some other artificial intelligence tools. With the help of those tools, actually these available information were converted into a 3D facies model, and each different color actually representing a different lithology, as you can observe in the legend as well at the bottom. And this is actually the, you can say, today's trend regarding deposition, environment recognition, and to develop some advanced model, facies characterization or facies identification. Okay, I have also provided again a table for deposition environment that will also help you to refresh yourself regarding different deposition environment and their common sedimentary rock types, and in third column common sedimentary structures, and then common fossils. And whatever data you collect in the field, you use these terminology for sedimentary structures, and similarly if there are some fossils, you use these terminologies for fossils. And if you receive the data where these descriptions are given, then based on these descriptions and this rock type, I think the task become more easy to identify the deposition environment. Similarly, in transition environment and marine environment are also provided here. Okay, here is another field example. As you can see, different images from A to H. Start from A, then B, C, and for each image, a detailed lithological description, or you can say sedimentary structure description, is given below. And this material will also help you a lot to understand how we can describe different sedimentary structures that you observe in the field. So let's observe a particular image and then read its detail. That will help you to learn what particular terminology is actually geoscientists or geologists use to describe different features. Okay, now let's come to our main, you can say, main part of the lab, that is actually the you have to perform or you have to draw or plot. First of all, task number one. In this task, you will plot or correlate these three boreholes that are given in relevant tables. And what is given to you? Depth, vertical depth, and the dominant lithology in particular interval of depth, and some description of observation. These may be the field observation, or you can assume these observations are coming from the well cuttings as well. And the distance between all borehole that is constant, and it is 10 kilometer. And here is all data for three boreholes. And now the time to use Coral Draw. You have to use Coral Draw and plot these boreholes there, and then correlate these data and develop a 1D geological model. After developing a geological model, you will read these description, and you will also take help from that model as well to recognize the depositional environment. And hopefully, after going through all the stuff that is provided to you in this lab number two, You can recognize depositional environment, and if you feel any discomfort or you have any question during performing these tasks, task number one and two, you can message me, you can call me, and I will try my best to address your questions regarding these tasks, task number one and two. Okay, that's all about lab number two, and hopefully you will enjoy this lab and will learn how to recognize deposition environment. Okay, thank you and bye.